Pokémon Black and White are the worst Pokémon games of all time. It is what people were saying when Gen 5 first came out. Believe it or not, people really hated Pokémon Black and White when they first released. So much so that there were countless hate videos on this generation, which I can't find anymore, but they do exist, okay? I'm not crazy, I'm not making this up, they are out there somewhere. Please, you gotta believe me, I'm not crazy. Let me just list the various criticisms people had for Black and White. Game Freak is running out of ideas. New Pokemon designs suck. Pokemon fell off. When these games came out, I was a dumb, impressionable kid who just regurgitated anything he heard. So for a long time, I had this exact opinion. Fast forward 13 years later, and the narrative completely switched up. Pokemon Black and White are the best Pokemon games of all time. So how can the narrative on these games change up that much? Well, I'm here to find out. 13 years later, I'm not a dumb impressionable kid anymore. I'm a dumb impressionable adult, so I can form my own opinions. The game starts off like any Pokemon game. Pick a small little guy, meet your rival, and fight God. We can either pick Firefighting Starter number 69, Snivy, but he was a complete dick in the anime, and my goat, Oshawott. Our rivals in these games are our friends Sharon and Bianca. And I know most of you just rolled your eyes when I said friends, just because that's such an overused trope nowadays in Pokemon games. But these are good rivals with better execution. Sharon, for one, looks like your typical nerd. Did you know that the word Pokemon comes from the words pocket and monsters?
Shut up, shut the fuck up, okay?
But he actually just wants to get as strong as possible, which I can respect. Now, why does he want to get so strong? I don't know. He doesn't even know. Even if he gets all the strength he desires, what's the point? What's the point in becoming the champ? On the other side, we have Bianca. Now, Bianca's character is pretty fleshed out for just another rival, and it's kinda off-putting how Game Freak managed to develop a side character this much. Just to go back to surface level boring characters like the ones in Gen 6. Even though she shares the same starting point as you and Sharon, she pretty quickly realizes that she just isn't suited to become a powerful trainer. Pokemon Black and White's dichotomy isn't that of good and evil. It's about truths and ideals, and you see these contrasting truths and ideals everywhere in this game. Sharon represents those that pursue ideals. In his case, the ideal of strength and what it means to be strong. Bianca represents those that pursue the truth, and the truth is, not everyone can become strong. Some people are just better suited to be cashiers or something. But enough philosophical mumbo jumbo, back to the game. We have a battle in my bedroom, which I could also say about your mom. For the first time in any Pokemon game, there's a sensible adult. Bianca's dad vehemently forbids Bianca from going on an adventure. And that's what I call good parenting. Do you know how goddamn dangerous some Pokemon are? My kids would never leave the house. Now when you got child kidnapping balloons around and like pedophile Pokemon. Anyways. Pokemon Black and White pushed the pace pretty quickly by immediately introducing the villain team, Team Plasma. Their goal? Well, it's simply to liberate all Pokemon, which is an interesting concept. Liberating someone usually implies that they're held as a prisoner or against their will, which obviously isn't true for every Pokemon. Sure, it is kind of fucked up to keep Pokemon in these tiny balls, giggity, just to have them fight other Pokemon for money or fame. But Team Plasma is very obviously either run by a hypocrite or a manipulative cult leader. Probably both, since they themselves keep Pokemon in Pokeballs and use them to fight and steal other people's Pokemon against their will. Team Plasma is trying to recruit people, but honestly, who would listen to a guy dressed like a wizard with a Dragon Ball Z Scouter on his head? After their little PowerPoint presentation, we are introduced to N, and he's all like,
"Your Pokemon are talking to me."
We beat him, he says some cryptic shit, and we move on to the next city. We were gifted a random ass pants here by this random ass girl. I called him Ramsey, because he kinda looks like a Ramsey to me. Not like Gordon Ramsay, More like some Pakistani boy named Mohammed Ramzi. On to our first gym. This gym does something very interesting. You actually have the choice between 3 gym leaders, each with a different typing. I picked the green hat guy just cause I hated him in the anime. His stupid cooking jokes had 10-year-old me in a rage. After the gym, we see Team Plasma harassing this dream pig. So we just kindly tell him to get out of here. But then Getsus appears out of nowhere, clones himself and says,
I gotta get out of here!
huh. See, I knew he was a wizard. Oh yeah, Getsus is the leader of Team Plasma, by the way. Still keeping up with the fast pace, we move on to the second gym. While we're busy with the gym leader, Team Plasma decides, hey, why not steal this dragon skull? It might be of that legendary dragon that we always wanted. I don't know about you guys, but I'm no archaeologist, geologist, dragonologist, but this to me very obviously looks like a Dragonite skull. But you know, I'm no expert. I just see a spike and I'm like, that's gotta be a Dragonite, yeah. While getting it back, we catch Root. We get the dragon skull back and we move on to the big city. This entire segment honestly just looks fantastic. From the gate to the bridge to the big city itself. It just looks immaculate, okay? Now, I can use big words like immaculate, but I'm not smart enough to tell you why this city looks good, okay? It just does. It makes my eyes go, hmm? So if you want a intellectually well-written reason on why it looks good, we don't do that here. You've come to the wrong place, bucko. I'm dumber than bricks, okay? I am 100% certain after Black and White, Game Freak was hit by like the orb of confusion. See, this entire upcoming segment is solely dedicated to develop Bianca's character and Sharon's character, which, let me tell you, developing characters is not something you see in X and Y or Sun and Moon. Well, no, that's a lie. Lily got developed. Bianca gets her Pokemon stolen, which shatters her self-esteem or something. And Sharon, well, we're the ones that shatter his self-esteem. We just kind of beat him up in a Pokemon fight. But hey, it's not my fault he sucks. Oh yeah, and the third gym leader looks like a fruit. Not like a homosexual, but like a literal actual fruit.
Like what?
We're supposed to meet up with the professor, right? So we leave the city and we go into the desert. What? For what? Why? How do we go from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 straight into the movie Dune? It doesn't, geographically, you know, it doesn't add up. The math isn't mathing. It just kind of feels disconnected. Oh yeah, and while we're out there, we catch Volt. Afterwards, we get more drama on Bianca and her dad, who rightfully is worried about his daughter. I mean, there's an evil wizard in the region leading a cult of criminals. That's when the gym leader Elisa chimes in and is like, I get why you're mad, but check this out.
Whoa, 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 hey.
And that's the end of the dad plotline. It's a cool plotline, but fairly short-lived. We meet N again, who invites us to a Ferris wheel ride. I mean, sure, it can't hurt, right?
See, I wanted to tell you, I'm the king of Team Plasma.
Who the starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
We promptly get off the Ferris wheel, and he just randomly becomes HD. So now, the fourth gym leader, Elisa, right? Let me tell you, she fought like a BRCTH. Two Emolgas. Double team, bolt switch.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
This was the most annoying gym in the game. She wasn't strong. She wasn't hard to beat. She just used, like, Vietnam guerrilla tactics to survive. After the gym, we meet Alder, the champ of the region, who asks Sharon why he wants to get so strong. To which Sharon responds with, I don't know, cause it's cool, which I can respect. That's a good reason. Oh shit, Rams is evolving. Let me see how Ew. I'll just briefly comment on the Gen 5 designs, since I know that was a hot topic issue back in the day. Let me get this straight. Gen 5 designs do not suck, okay? The reason why people hated Gen 5 designs so much on release is because Black and White ditched all previous Pokemon for the main story, so you could only use Gen 5 Pokemon for the better part of the game. Now, sure, you might say, oh, but look at Trubbish, she's just a trash bag. Well, so is your mom, and nobody's complaining about that. You know, that was rude. I do apologize, that was very uncalled for. Sure, the fact that every other Pokemon is gone for the main story sucks if you hate every single design this generation, but come on, they're not that bad. The only ones that are actually kind of bad and boring are Buffaland, because it's just a Taurus with an afro, so good job Game Freak, and Beartic. His pre-evolution is so cute, it's so darn cute, and it had a ton of potential. And Beartic, well, it looks like a alcoholic grandpa. There are some other weaker designs, but they aren't as insultingly bad as people used to make them out to be. Oh yeah, and poor Ramsey is pretty ugly too, so that's a shame. So, Meat Kong! We catch a gang of wizards having a group cuddling session inside a refrigerator, and we politely tell them to f off. And this chunky chap called Clay thanks us by inviting us to his gym, where I get completely obliterated. Okay, listen. Listen, okay? I just got unlucky. His Pokemon kept swaggering on mine, and they ended themselves. I know you guys gonna say, oh, well, it's a skill issue. Well, okay, if it's a skill issue, it's a skill issue. What can I say? Okay, I suck at video games. We run it back and beat him without any trouble. Which leads us to Chargestone Cave. And in my notes that I don't have with me, the only thing I wrote down about Chargestone Cave is pretty cool rocks. We suddenly get ambushed by ninjas called the Dark Triad, who escort us for like 2 seconds and dip. What's the point of these guys? We would have gone this way anyways. We get some interesting insight into N's dream. Now we know N wants to separate humans from Pokemon, but we didn't really know why. So N grew up around orphan Pokemon that were abused and left to die by their trainers basically. So the only relationship N knows between Pokemon and humans is a negative one. So he assumes, well, humans must be bad for Pokemon, just like in general. But it kind of seems like he also knows that what he's doing is wrong, and that it isn't as simple as humans bad, Pokemon good. A mix of people, a mix of philosophies makes it unclear on who's good and who's bad. By separating Pokemon from humans, he hopes to clear this gray world up into black and white.
He said it! He said it!
Professor Juniper shows up and is like, yeah, but what if you just let people and Pokemon decide for themselves? To which N replies with, okay, so we're entering the final parts of the game. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, but try to keep up. We meet Skylar, the 6th gym leader, who tells us there's a sick Pokemon up on the tower. But when we get there, she's just like, just kidding. So we go back to the gym and beat her up. And we immediately move on to the 7th gym. We also slap this guy up. I forgot his name. And when we do, the Dark Triad shows up and is like, our master is about to summon the legendary dragon, and he wants you to come look. I mean, you can come look if you want. I mean, sure, I guess I'll come look. But when we get there, he already summoned Reshiram. Well, shit. N now has the legendary dragon. The only way to stop N now is to summon our own cool dragon. Alder tells us to meet him on Route 4, which is 50 cities away, so I catch Lego the Druddigon to fly there. Wait, no cool edit for him. This fat fucking idiot dragon can't fly, so I guess we gotta run there, man.
2 hours later.
So we finally get to Route 4, and Alder tells us, hey, actually, it's not here. Meet me in this other city that's 50 years away. So we get to the other city, and he tells us, oh, you know, actually, meet me in this other city that's 50 years away. And so we get there, and he tells us, I'll defeat N myself, which, go for it, buddy. We get some very interesting backstory on the legendaries of these games. How they used to be one dragon wielded by 2 brothers, but when the brothers had an argument, the dragon was split into 2. Man, I hope we get to see that original dragon. Do we see him? As for the final gym, there's nothing really notable to say about it, except for its nice interior. And we also beat Iris pretty easily. Anyways, the Elite Four. Chantal was easy. Volk was the MVP and pretty much just steamrolled her entire team. Next up, Marshall. Now Marshall, you could say, packed quite a punch. He did some damage. Okay, let's not fret over the details. Grimsley was a fight. I don't remember what happened. And Caitlyn was just another victim for Volk. On to the champ. N? So N beat Alder, which, surprise surprise, making him the champ now. As the champ, he of course has the power to summon a castle out of nowhere. With no one standing in his way, him and Reshiram are gonna kindly ask everyone to release their Pokemon. Or else.
Not if I got anything to say about it.
Says Zekrom in a dramatic entrance sequence. Now it's time for a showdown. The stakes in this fight are through the roof. N already beat the champ of the region. He has the legendary Pokemon. Oh, and by the way, he didn't force the legendary to come with him. He befriended it. So he has full control over Reshiram. He's got the f***ing power of friendship on his side. Not only that, this fight isn't just to be champ. It's a clash of truths and ideals. If he loses right now, everything he has lived for would be for none. Get it? None. So we beat him, and for a final boss, N is still very sympathetic. You get where he's coming from, but you also know that it's not the right way. Oh, did I say final boss? Well, excuse me. The actual final boss is Ghetsis, who has been manipulating N and wants to separate humans from Pokemon, not for some philosophical reason. No, he wants to leave the rest of the world Pokemon-less, so he has all the Pokemon, and he can rule the world. Okay, dude. Why would you admit this? Sharon and Alder just took him to jail immediately. And with that said and done, N, after being freed from Ghetsis' manipulation and having his mind changed by us, gives us one final look and tells us, go make your dreams come true. Which, aww. And that's the end. That's Pokemon Black and White's story. This game was crazy enjoyable. Gen 5 really blew Gen 6 and 7 out of the water with how much I enjoyed it. It had some of the most well-written, interesting and likable characters in the franchise. There's not one character I can point at and say, yeah, that guy sucks. I also get why people think Gen 5 was the last good generation of Pokemon games. The story and world is a lot more grounded. Compared to newer games where you fight interdimensional demons, here you question the morality behind the Pokemon world and the connection between humans and Pokemon. When I look at Sword and Shield's lifeless overworld, I do miss these old school Pokemon games. Pokemon Black and White looks so good, and honestly, Game Freak peaked in Black and White 2 when it comes to the graphics. Of course, art is very subjective. If you like the 3D models and hate the sprites, it's okay to be wrong. I do really hope they don't mess up the remakes, but to be honest, these games don't need remakes. Black and White are perfect the way they are. Anyways, love you guys. Mwah, mwah, mwah.